Welcome to the Lockbox! Lockbox!
Welcome to the Lockbox, the Lockbox! Hello again, guys. Welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of the Lockbox. Tonight I'm joined by Tesseract.
Hello.
And Anher.
Hello.
Well, guys, I guess what we're going to be speaking mostly about today is the new Halls of Power DLC, which is live on test.
Yeah.
Live
Looking
on
forward
test.
to this.
Live on tester.
The DLC that we craved for so long.
They've been teasing this for way too long. Was it like 2 years ago they first announced it?
They hinted at it, and then SOE Live last year, they went into a bit more detail. And as you geared up for release, they told more and more details. So I guess the first point is Halls of Power is what it's made up of. So there's Intergang Crimewave, it's a 4-player operation. Security Breach is a 4-player alert. Artfacts from the Past, 8-player operation. Relics of Urgrund, 8-player raid. And Lockdown, 8-player raid.
I was quite interested about this when I watched the live stream, because Spittle was explaining that like New Genesis and Apocalypse, the two worlds that the new gods are on, like basically before that were the old gods, which were the Norse gods, Thor and Odin and all that, and I didn't know that from the mythology of DC Comics, so that was a bit of news for me.
Yeah, I've never really followed the comic books regarding New Genesis and Apocalypse and so on and so forth, but when he explained it, he knows his stuff, so when he was explaining it, it seemed really interesting and engaging.
So all this stuff in this DLC is basically geared around the new gods. Like we've seen mention of some of the bosses that you're fighting, like Calibac and the other guy, I can't remember his name. Mantis. But I guess it's all leading up to whenever we get to DLC 3 of this triumvirate that's going to be Darkseid that we're going to be facing. But
I would hope so.
There's no mention of him in what you've seen so far, though.
He gets mentioned, but you don't actually physically see him. He makes no appearance, no voice, nothing.
I wonder if you're doing the voiceover for him.
Quite a few people have done Darkseid's voice in the animated stuff and movies and so on. Any one of them could quite easily do it, I think.
Or
Don't remember their names, but
maybe Spittle will want to do it himself. Or maybe they'll get the Dreadwolf to do it.
it might be the opportunity Meps is looking for.
The thing that really blew me away with the announcement for this was just the sheer quantity of the content in it. Like, in the past, when they announced that they were going to do the alternating small DLC, large DLC, you know, that it was disappointing for us because it meant that there'd be these DLCs out that didn't have raids, and we always wanted raid content. And then they announced that every DLC was going to have raid content, and that was great. But then this comes out and there's like 3 8-man content. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's like apparent that this is something that they've been working on for a long time, and they're answering players' prayers. Basically, people have been asking for this for so long now, and now we're finally getting the chance to see it. So let's hope and it's all living up to expectations. But Rob, you can tell us a bit more about what's been going on, because you've been on the test server, haven't you?
Yep, been on the test server. I've played through every instance. A couple of them we didn't finish due to bugs, so that's Artfacts from the Past, which is the 8-player operation, and Lockdown, the 8-player raid. Bugs, so we couldn't proceed. But yeah. So
let's start with the 4-player content. You've done that as well?
Yes.
Okay, tell us a bit more about that.
Well, Intergang Crimewave is probably my favourite instance of everything that's been released, surprisingly, because I'm more of an 8-player content kind of guy. But the Intergang Crimewave is a 4-player operation. It's usually going through a separate instance of Metropolis, taking on some of Intergang's operatives because they've got their hands on apocalyptic technology. You fight your way through into Oolong Island, making use of a previous alert in the game, where you come across Bruno Mannheim and Shang Tzu. So we've already seen Shang Tzu in Oolong and the Oolong alert itself. I thought, I was a bit worried about reusing something like that, but it really works here. It was, like I said, my favourite instance so far.
So are we seeing the same mechanics that we'd have seen in the Oolong alert for the bosses, or have they switched it up a bit?
It is different. I won't go into too much detail. We do have videos of them, of all this content up on the channel, and obviously people want to get their hands on it and give it a go. But no, it's not really mechanics we've seen before too much. And then there's the security breach, the 4-player alert that takes place in your league hall. Because it was a test server, it's very sparse. There's not very much in there. We had our statues, but that's about it. I can really see it. You'll feel a sense of ownership and wanting to protect that base, that league hall, once you've got more of your gear and stuff in there. Artifacts from the past, the 8-player operation, that was bugged. Didn't manage to get through that. But from what we've seen of the first 15-20 minutes, very interesting. Relics of, I don't know how to pronounce that, Urgrund, the 8-player raid. We finished that. That one was probably my least favourite. It was a bit of a tank and spank process. You go through it, and so the tank will hold the aggro. You have to kill the enemies. Pretty straightforward. But there were some mechanics we didn't quite know about, or we didn't know if it had anything to do with what was going on. So there were relics which were glowing and had auras around them. Tried pulling the boss into it, didn't really do anything. It might just be us. We've only done it once, so couldn't really, haven't seen it all. And then the last one was Lockdown, the 8-player raid. This is the hardest content this DLC has to offer. I think there's only one group that's completed it so far, and it took them 4 to 5 hours.
Ooh.
We gave it a little half an hour, 45 minutes. Bug cropped up, so we said forget it. We'll move on.
So what sort of difficulty? You're saying it's difficult, but how does it compare to something like Paradox? Is it difficult in the same way, or
Lockdown specifically? I'd say Lockdown, the 8-player raid, the hardest content this DLC has to offer, is the equivalent of what Paradox Wave was to Origin Crisis at point of its release. So it really kicked people's bums. They just couldn't complete it. They struggled. So I'd say it's very much like that. Not that it can't be done. Obviously, the team took 4 hours, and yeah.
is that basically because the team's set up, or where the team's standing, there's a lot of stuff that you've got to move out of, or is it basically that the mobs are so powerful that they're going to one-shot you? That type of thing?
It's a combination of all factors. So the damage is really high. Bearing in mind that this is on the test server, so we can all use, and people were using, the best gear that you can buy on vendors. Tier 6 modding, everything you can get your hands on. So you're as powerful as you can be, except for getting lucky with any loot drops in the raid itself. So the damage was really high. The enemies had really high health. They were really numerate as well. And one thing that really stuck out in Lockdown was that there was this, I can't remember the name of it, but there was a panel in the central section that you had to prevent parademon technicians or fixers from actually reaching, because they can set up a bomb. It's like an enrage counter.
Yeah.
But you can actively prevent that. So you'll have your controllers and your tanks pulling them away. So if they get there and plant four things, then the bomb will explode, and then that's it. You'll have to restart.
So it is basically an enrage timer sort of mechanic that.
Yeah. That you can overcome it. Like I said, you got to be really on the ball for that. You need to pull them away, and very much like Paradox Waves, the blue orbs that spit the other blue orbs out, does a lot of damage. You got something very similar. It's yellow orbs. They appear around the arena and they shoot a beam out, and it goes in a 360-degree radius. And someone, I can't remember his name, but someone posted in the official forums about looking for tactics and stuff, and because he was seeing hits between 5 to 10k.
Wow.
And that's essentially a one shot.
Yeah.
Not
so
had a
you're
chance
saying
to look...
is, you've
Sorry, go on.
got to avoid the yellow balls that are on the outer rim.
Yes, avoid the balls in the outer rim. There may be a tactic to it. We were hypothesizing, maybe it's people are saying maybe it's a random location. Maybe they spawn randomly, but from what we saw, they seem to have a set pattern, timed intervals. So you really got to be on the ball for this one.
So a lot of team coordination again. Is this something that you're glad to see? I mean, Paradox really, like you said, kicked a lot of people's bums and made people have to work together, make sure they was in the right place. And avoid certain different things and mechanics, and it did involve a lot of interaction with the team, making sure that you was all communicating.
Yes and no. So, content of that difficulty is out of place in DC. It's not something that has happened very much. So I've explained this before, that it's made me complacent. So I've been playing MMOs for 10 to 12 years, and all started
Really,
with...
you don't sound old enough.
Well, thank you. But it was all really new and really difficult stuff. You know, people trying to find the balance. DC, they didn't go down that route. They've gone more, you know, it's all inclusive. Everyone can take part. So when you get something like Paradox Wave or this lockdown that suddenly is sky high in difficulty, you're thrown through a loop. You know, you have to get back into the game. You have to do it on a near daily basis in order to build up your reflexes and your action times and your awareness and so on and so forth. Whereas, you know, from what we've been doing before, that's just not been necessary. So you've kind of lost that edge.
No, I know exactly what you're saying, because I keep going back to Paradox Wave, but I think when that came out, it did make people reassess their playstyle and realise that the content that had come before, they had been coasting. They'd been able to just smash through it without really having to worry about their own survivability, because they was going to get healed and things.
Exactly. So, I mean, DCUR, I've described it before. I mean, not in a negative way. It's more of my armchair game. So I'll sit back. I you know, try and play with two hands. I'll use one hand in order to get past some enemies.
Where's the other hand? Let's clarify.
That's
that's
going to grasp a cup of tea, take a sip. But something like Lockdown, that doesn't work. You have to be focused on the screen. Everything's down. You know, you've got to be on the ball for pickups. There's a mechanic in there as well. I won't reveal it again too much for people, but it does involve locking one of the bosses down. So essentially, it is an encounter that you use one tank for. Some people aren't happy with that. Some people are. You know, you'll always have that kind of counter argument. But yeah, definitely you need to be focused for this.
Yeah. So do you think it's been built that way, that you are only going to need one tank, or could you see aspects of it that were meant to have two tanks?
Through all the content except Lockdown, you can get away with one tank or even no tank. You can just overpower it with DPS and heals. Mitchell made a point. When he equipped himself and skilled himself, he was sitting on almost 10,000 health with 7,000 restoration. Now that kind of stats is just, it's unreal. It's not needed for this content. So we were using one healer. Lockdown, I can see where two tanks would kind of come into play, but again, the lockdown mechanic involving the bosses kind of tells you, okay, just stick with one boss, one tank even.
Yeah. So overall, how are you rating this content so far? Is this?
I would say that Halls of Power is the single best DLC this game has to offer so far.
What? That's a controversial answer, Rob.
I know, but I guess it's because it's most appealing for myself, and you know, you guys as well. It's got everything we wanted. It's got some difficulty to it. It's got massive content for three instances for 8 players. That's what we do. We don't have a craving or a passion for 4-player content or solo content.
Can I just ask what marks were dropping? What marks were you getting? Is it a new currency?
No, it's still Amazon Fury marks. Marks of Fury.
And what was the gear that was dropping then?
We saw one piece of gear, and that was a neck piece, and I don't really remember the stats on that. It wasn't exceptionally superior to what you could buy from a vendor, but it was an improvement. The rest was just we were getting focusing elements. We're getting some tier 6 plans.
Any expert plans?
There are no expert plans dropping in this DLC. That's coming in DLC 12, as confirmed by Spittle himself.
That's pleasing to hear that it's still dropping the Marks of Fury, because I think a lot of people, myself included, with the content that we've got with Amazon Fury at the moment, you've got the 2 challenges, you've got the 2 duos, you've got the tier 6 alert, and that's a lot of grinding to be able to get a full set of the tier 6 as it is at the moment, because the marks that you drop in from those aren't much. But with all this extra new content that's coming in the new DLC, you're going to be getting a hell of a lot more marks, so it's going to be a lot easier to get your gear.
Exactly, and I mean it's been the same for pretty much most of our league. We've kind of taken out DLC 10 as a break because it just wasn't offering what we wanted. Now, I haven't had a chance to go on the official forums and really get involved in some discussions, but from preliminarily reading what people are saying, there's kind of some confusion. They're saying, DLC 10's come out. We've now got DLC 11, which will just make everything in Amazon Fury obsolete. People would have just skipped that and just waited for this next content where they can get loads of marks, and then backtrack and buy the old stuff from Amazon Fury. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. It's a game. It's designed for fun. You take it each part at a time. Having Amazon Fury tier 6 gear is going to make Halls of Power instances that much easier. Like for most of us, we've still got tier 5 gear.
Yeah.
And when this stuff comes out, it's going to take us that bit longer to get through it. We have to be that more cautious because we don't have the health and defense and so on and so forth to best the content. It's going to be a longer journey for us, really.
It's also, I mean, it's not a criticism that could be leveled just against this DLC. I mean, War of the Light made all other tier 5 content completely missable because suddenly you've got 90 gear from a vendor, when even Paradox and Nexus, which are still for most people much harder to do than the Operation War of the Light, they're only dropping 88.
Right, and it always comes up, but people just have to understand that it's the way progression works. New stuff will come out that will make the previous stuff obsolete. It wasn't about having that and then being powerful for the next year. It's just it comes out, you get the stuff, and then you move on to the next stuff.
I'm still really enjoying Amazon Fury. I mean, I sort of had a little break. I didn't come away totally from the game, but Amazon Fury's brought me back into it, and I've been playing every day again. And I am grinding to get my tier 6 gear because I want to be ready for when this new DLC comes out, already as best as I can be.
The only thing that puts me off grinding for the gear is that when the advancement in the gear is relatively minimal, it's modding it. It's not just you buy the gear, but once you've bought the gear, it's still not better than what you're wearing. You have to put a mod in it to make it better. And then that either costs you marks to buy the mods, or it costs you the bits to mod it.
Don't get me started on mods. I still have not had one focusing element drop for me. One focusing element 6. I've run it loads of times, that tier 6 alert, and I've not had one focusing element 6 drop. I've had to rely on the charity of other players and on my funds in my bank to actually buy them off the auction house as cheaply as possible. Because I've been modding all my gear with tier 6 stuff.
During this test server content, we did see a number of focus element drops. So I think I have 4 in total, and I've only played 1 day so far.
Well, I'm hoping that they are going to be up in the drop rate of the focusing element 6s, because that does get my goat a bit.
I mean, something needs to be done in terms of modding, because it's just becoming progressively more difficult to engage in the modding process, and expert plans just kind of blow it all out of the water. No one's going to bother modding themselves with standard tier 6 plans. Back in tier 5, no one's going to bother modding themselves with tier 5 standard when they know tier 5 expert is out there. So what is the point of having tier 5 plans in the first place? It just, the whole thing needs kind of a rehash, I think, in terms of what it costs and what plans are dropping.
I think that's not quite true, because the rarity of the expert plans, relatively speaking, makes it quite hard for people to come across them. And so if you know someone that can make you one for free, that's something. But a lot of people make money off of crafting for other people. Some people just don't have that money, so they'll craft the standard plans rather than the expert plans.
Sure, but it's more about the correlation. How many people are holding off from having modded a tier 5 standard plan, or just holding on to their bits and pieces to get tier 5 expert? It may not have been immediate, but it would have come eventually.
So, moving on from the mods then, you've obviously said that you find the difficulty of this to be like Paradox Wave perhaps on release. What do you think other people are feeling for it?
So yeah, specifically Lockdown is akin to Paradox Wave of Origin Crisis on its release. The rest of the content, you're looking at maybe... We were wearing the best gear you can get, and that was taking us about a 20 to 30 minute completion time. There are a few threads on the forums about people saying, you know, it's once again too easy. Even though Lockdown took a team 4 hours, you know, they should not have been able to complete it on day release. And I think what they're missing is the fact that the content has to appeal to the entire audience. It can't appeal to the 1% that has the time and dedication and ability to sit there and see it through till the end in that amount of time.
So there's criticisms that it was completed on day of release on test server.
Exactly, yeah. They're saying, no, this stuff it's all well and good. Players can go in there and get the best gear, but it should not have been completable on the first day. But again, people are missing the fact it's the test server. If the content is not conquerable, then what are we testing? There is no testing to be taken place. So what we've got now on test is not necessarily what's going to be coming out on live. Now, they've never really adjusted the difficulties before, but that isn't to say this won't change based on feedback. I honestly think they've hit the sweet spot with this. It's not too easy, not too hard.
Bit of a roundabout point to make here, but this is a bit before my time. When FOS 2 was released, did you guys beat it on the first night?
Yes.
How long did it take you?
About 5 or 6 hours.
So
and
FOS
that was
2,
an early
which
morning job.
Widely considered to be one of, if not the best raid that this game has ever produced, and it was beaten on the first day of release on the live servers. So I don't think that you know, requiring that a difficult raid has to be beaten months down the line is necessary or even good for the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved Paradox Wave and how that was set up and how you could beat it but not get, you know, the Epic Odyssey feat or the speed feat until months later. But clearly a lot of people didn't like that.
I mean, there were aspects of that in FOS 2 though, because even though we completed it on the first night, that was after 5 or 6 hours, but the speed feat is 45 minutes, and that didn't come along till months later, like you say.
Yeah.
And that's what feats should be there for. Feats should be there to challenge people that want the challenge, to give them something to work towards, to keep them interested, and then everybody that can actually, you know, get through the content. It's at a lower difficulty level, so more people can get through, and then you challenge the people that want an extra challenge with feats. Is there a speed feat for the Lockdown?
Not that I can remember. There may well be. I cannot remember.
But yeah, taking 4 hours to complete the first time a team does it, and I don't know who was in that team that did it, but presumably fairly decent players that know the game well on the test server, interested in testing content. I don't think you can really criticise something for taking 4 hours to complete.
Their argument is that, you know, even though it took 4 hours, it's only going to be quicker the next time. And I think what they're missing is the fact that the people who've completed it are representative of the 1% of the player base. You're not going to be able to get your pug teams in there and complete it at all, I would wager. It's like, you know, you've got 20 people running a 100-meter dash. One of them happens to be Usain Bolt. He's going to win, hands down, against the other 19 who are just, you know, bog standard runners. They can't judge anything based on what the best of the best can do, really. It has to, like I said, it has to appeal to the whole audience.
And do you think that's what it will do?
Yes, definitely. It's going to give the challenge that everyone wants, I think.
So, there's not a new power set in this raid. There's not, in this DLC. There's not a new weapon in this DLC. Everybody was kind of expecting there to be a new movement mode, given that the new gods are famous for floating about on hover discs. Don't think we've seen anything about that, though.
No, vehicular movement kind of thing.
Yeah, because Mr. Miracle in that DLC, the guy that's one of the hero NPCs, you'll see his movement mode is the 2 discs that he wears on his feet that allow him to fly. and that's what people were speculating on that we might see. But then that's not to say that we might not see it in Halls of Power Part 2, or the one of the New Gods DLCs that come out down the line.
It does seem like that would make this the first DLC, though, that wasn't planned with some kind of gimmick with it. Either a new power, a new weapon. We've had utility belts in the past as well.
Maybe there's something that we haven't seen yet. Maybe they're holding something back as a surprise. I don't know.
I don't think they're holding anything back. I think it's simply the time investment for them to develop the content and then try and think of something unique for vehicular movement. So yeah, Mr. Miracle may use a machine to fly, but it's still flight, which we already have in the game. So they don't want to just palm it off, because I know what would happen. So they release it, and then someone would just turn around and say, but it's only flight. It's something we've already got. So perhaps, like you said, they're holding it off for Halls of Power 2 or 3 in order to do it justice. Make it a worthwhile movement mode.
So we weren't due to see a new power set until the DLC after this anyway, were we?
No.
No.
Has that been confirmed?
Well, it's usually every 3 DLCs, isn't it? We get a new power set. And the last one that we had was Rage with DLC 9. So by that I'm thinking DLC 12 we should be looking at a new power set, but we've had no hints of that at all. What that might be. Although people are still calling for a water power set.
I think the devs have confirmed that that's not going to happen. Have we had anything interesting happening on the forums recently then?
The official forums are just all abuzz with the new Halls of Power content. Like the first 2 pages are just essentially this. And also survival mode. One thread that stuck out for me is villain/hero cooperative raiding and operations for PvE content. That is something that's been brought up before, and I would definitely like to see.
So that's like we've got the Suicide Squad stuff for PvP, where you can team up with heroes to do, where heroes can team up with villains to do villain content.
Exactly.
Or villains can team up with heroes to do the hero content.
Yeah, and I mean the counter argument is, oh, but why would villains be doing heroic deeds, or why would heroes be doing villainous deeds? And it's not about that. It's about trying to give access to a larger player base, a larger pool of players to draw on. If the team is made up of 6 heroes and 4 villains, 6 heroes and the rest as villains, then you may as well just go into the hero encounter. They'll still get the same rewards, same marks, and the same is true vice versa.
I'm sure the devs could come up with a scenario where the heroes and villains had to unite to take down a common threat, something that was threatening to destroy the world, which I would say would be Darkseid, which would be further down the line. So it's not to say that we might not see something like that in the near future.
It would be very cool to see.
Another interesting thread that I saw on the forum is that somebody was calling to be able to wear female styles on their male toon. I thought
This
it was
is
a bit strange.
Well, this has been a bug of mine since this game came out, basically, was the somewhat that where, there's no skirts for male characters type thing. And it's just like, it's clearly just ridiculous attitude saying that, men don't do that sort of thing. We can't possibly have a superhero running around that's a cross-dresser.
Why not?
Which that kind of bugs me a little bit that was in this game. But more than that, it's the fact that for some of the low-level styles that share the same name for the hero, for the female and the males, they have really distinct looks. Like, it looks like a completely different set. And it just really, really bugs me, because there's a couple of low-level sets that I think, oh, this looks really cool on, say, the female character. And then I think, oh, I'll look at it on the male character, and it just looks ridiculous. And it's because it's a completely different set, and it just bugs me that they've not only have they kind of made the tweaks to the style that you would need to make to fit it onto a male or female character, but they've actually just completely designed a new style. And I'm just like, why would you go to all that effort to design a style and then not use it for half of the characters? Sorry, this is a pet peeve of mine.
So no males running around in bras anytime soon. That's basically what we're saying.
Disappointed.
I'm disappointed for Rob.
It's something else on the forums I wanted to bring up, and it's related to the test server as well. There's this initiative going on with the testing server initiative, and it's basically made to combat the fact that a lot of people don't actually test on test server. It can be hard to get a group because there's so few people on it. So I think it's Tikkun of Legion Legends on USPC has been one of the people that's started it up, and I think it's mostly organised by a Skype group. And you can contact Tikkun and get added to this group, and basically whenever they're wanting to get any testing done, then you can call on players from this group. It's a really good idea because we've never really had that many issues getting people to test, because we've got a good quite base of people in the league that have got the test server installed. But for people that are interested in testing but just find that there's never people to do it with, you should definitely check it out. There's a thread about it in the testing server, I think, and you can just send a message to Tikkun, and I think she'd be able to help you out.
We'll find that and throw it in the description below for people.
Well, I think that just about covers everything that we wanted to speak about today. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, we think we've covered all the bases there.
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining us again for episode 2, season 2 of the Lockbox. As always, any gripes, any concerns, any feedback that you want to give us, please leave it in the comments below. And I'd like to say thank you to Anher.
Thank you.
And Tesseract.
Thank you very much.
For joining me again, and we will see you in the next episode. And remember, guys, it ain't never rats.